welcome to episode number 127 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. You can hear my beautiful voice. I am Jason Finelli, the Esports and Gaming Insider for Fox PHL The Gambler, and I said esports, and I said I wasn't going to do that anymore. Off to a fantastic start. But, so it's been a couple of weeks since I recorded an episode. Went to MagicCon. I think MagicCon preview show was the last one that I did, and then I had a vacation, family vacation to Disney World, which I took last week, so that's why I wasn't here last week. The week before, I was just in vacation prep mode, so I didn't have time to actually sit down and do that. But I got some things to talk about this week, things going on, things that are on my brain. There has been some interesting developments with certain games, like Suicide Squad potentially getting delayed again. The Capcom showcase from Thursday, which released the Resident Evil 4 remake demo, which is out now, and showed off some new Mega Man Battle Network. That was a really cool presentation there. But there are a couple of things we're going to talk about today here on the show. No guests, just me. So 45 minutes or so of me talking to you about things that interest me. And we will start off today with the announcement of an interesting new outlet that was revealed yesterday for the first time. And it's one that makes it would have made a lot of sense couple years ago, and I guess it still makes sense now, but also I find myself having trouble getting excited about it, and I'll explain why in a second. So the new outlet is called Esports Illustrated. It is connected to Sports Illustrated, and it will be covering all things esports. The information of the official Twitter, which is Esports Illus, ILLUS, is it's like sports news but not, which I am already not a fan of, because why would you discount yourself like that? It's still sports news. It just has an E in front of it. If you're trying to connect yourself to Sports Illustrated and thereby general sports, why would you shoot yourself in the foot right off the bat with 7 words or 6 words? Sorry. Be nice if I could count. It's 7 words with a contraction. But ultimately, I think this is a good idea, and I think that the people that they have writing for them are very, very good. I think that it is a little late right now. Obviously, competitive gaming as a whole is on the downturn after the pandemic, with Overwatch League floundering, Call of Duty League not quite where it used to be, a couple other leagues just kind of there. A lot of investors and financial folks now worried about the not the future, but worried about the viability of competitive gaming thanks to things like the FTX fiasco and stuff like that, which I completely understand. But it's cool that they're throwing their hat into this. Anything that could bring a little legitimacy, for lack of a better term, back to competitive video games is all right by me, to be completely honest. But I have to wonder why it doesn't excite me as much as it should. And I think that has more to do with the grander competitive gaming scene right now than it does with the addition of the new outlet. Because like I said, the people who are writing for it, they have a great staff of people writing there. I hope they will take some freelance eventually. I would love to cover some fighting games for them in the future. But ultimately, I wonder if this is just too little, too late. The precipitous fall of competitive games from when this podcast started in June of 2020 to now, for a multitude of reasons, of course, is astounding to me. The fact that they couldn't take some of the most popular franchises in the world at the time, Call of Duty and Valorant was up and coming. It wasn't quite there yet, but now it's pretty popular. Rainbow Six Siege, which will not go away. The game is still thriving. 6 or 7 years, 8 years almost after its release. I don't understand how the industry was able to flounder as it has and basically, fall by the wayside into the I don't want to say obscurity, but the I guess the water treading pattern that it's in now. It boggles my mind that these leagues, particularly the ones under Activision's umbrella, Call of Duty and Overwatch, are just kind of there. Now, there are apparently a multitude of problems behind the scenes. The franchise fees are exorbitant. Teams aren't making the money that they used to. They're trying to find new revenue streams, new ways to generate value. Ownership are, shedding these teams by the day. Most recent one that I can think of is Cronky Sports in Los Angeles has decided that they're going to lay off everybody from The Guard, which was their Valorant. It was a more broad esports competitive gaming team, but like Valorant was their main focus. And also the LA Gorillas and the LA, not the Valiant. They're the ones that are in South Korea right now. What the heck's the other LA team? Maybe it is the Valiant. The name is eluding me at the moment, but those teams that they own, they're basically looking to sell at the end of the season. They're looking to sell those franchises out at the end of the year. So Cronky's getting out, and it's just the latest in a multitude of organizations and things like that are doing that. They just don't have the appeal that they used to anymore, and a lot of it is because of misappropriated funds. A lot of it is because of things like FTX, where people put a lot of money in there that wasn't actually there. It's just on a downturn. And Esports Illustrated comes in at a time where they're going to have to cover potentially the death of the industry. Do I think that's, glass half empty, worst case scenario? Yes, absolutely. Honestly, I don't think competitive gaming will go anywhere. But considering where it was and where it is now, it's very, very hard for me to get excited about something like Esports Illustrated. I would love to. Again, don't get me wrong. I love the idea of Esports Illustrated and SI getting into competitive gaming. I just wish they would have done it sooner. Best case scenario, devote a little bit of print magazine space to it. I know that's asking a heck of a lot, but that would have been fantastic. But again, it's not because of the outlet. The outlet's going to do good work. I know the outlet's going to do good work because that's what the people behind it are very good at, putting out good content. This just happens to be focused on esports. My problem is the industry that they're covering is not healthy right now. And if they don't use their new coverage abilities to highlight that, along with things like results and, player transactional news and stuff like that, then what are we doing here? I think the one thing that esports and competitive games, whatever you want to call it, has been lacking is transparency and accountability, and a more outlets devoted to just competitive games will bring that. I mean, Dot does good work. Dexterto does good work. Dexterto, I think is how you say it. And the other mainstream fringe sort of websites that cover competitive games do that sometimes. Jacob Wolf is another good example. But there could always be more, and I'm hoping that Esports Illustrated will kind of fill that gap a little bit and bring in some of those, behind the scenes, exposure to things that could ultimately hurt the industry, and then bring it to a better place by getting those things, out in the open and dealt with. Are there other factors affecting, esports as a whole? Yeah, probably. I imagine, at least in Activision's case, that the Microsoft merger has something to do with that. So once they can't focus on the Call of Duty League or the Overwatch League until that's all taken care of and they have new business parents. But that doesn't change the fact that they're still making horrible decisions while they're dealing with it. Yes, am I a little bitter about the Fusion leaving and becoming the sole Infernal? Yes, of course I am. And the video that Overwatch League put out on their official YouTube last week, Farewell Fusion, which was just an ad to buy the skins before they went away forever, that was a little, thanks for nothing. But it doesn't change the fact that people don't want to be a part of this league. They don't want to pay the exorbitant fees and for diminishing returns, and they can put better spend their money elsewhere, not just in other industries, but in the gaming industry as a whole. There are better places to invest their money right now, and they don't want to do it in these existing leagues. I said before that the word esports is tainted from now on. It just is. Considering where things were and where they are now and the things that got them where they are now, that term carries a negative connotation now. Now, Esports Illustrated, this new outlet, can get away with that because they're just playing off of an existing outlet, Sports Illustrated, and putting the E there. It makes a lot of sense. But if you say the word esports to an investor, they're going to cringe. They're going to say, no, that's, we're taking our money out of that. We don't want to invest in that right now, so on and so forth. So ultimately, as cool as it is to see Esports Illustrated exist, I'm not as excited as I should be, right? A major, decades-old outlet, name in journalism, is creating a vertical specifically for esports, and my response to it is basically, meh, cool, why not? 3 years ago, I would have lost my mind that Sports Illustrated was devoting attention to competitive gaming. Esports was doing it, they dropped out. It took, focused outlets to really get coverage going, and now SI is getting involved. Is it too little too late? Probably. Hence my reaction. The fact that they, in 24 hours, or maybe a little more than that, only have about 350-some followers on Twitter. Not the best metric, I understand, but still a pretty decently telling sort of idea that, esports and competitive gaming coverage just isn't where it should be or where it was. And things like, and even things that inflated reports, like it turned out Newzoo, which was like the big esports earning reports, annual report sort of thing, was bullcrap. So everything around esports has just been smoke and mirrors, and the more things that come out, the less people trust it, and rightfully so. It just reinforces my thought, and I'm talking about competitive games, so I'm going to say it, that the future of the industry rests on the shoulders of fighting games. I have said it before, and I will say it again. The first organization to create a traveling fighting game show, not unlike a WWE show where you have headline matches with established players who have personalities outside of the games that they're playing, and you could. Street Fighter League kind of does this, but it allows the players to name their teams. If you made it city-based, where you had people who lived in Philly and are good at Street Fighter, New York and are good at Street Fighter, I'm just using Street Fighter because 6 is coming out soon, and made them into teams, and then had like 3v3 team battle competitions between these cities, you create the standings from there, and then you have a major blow-off. The first group to do that is going to make money hand over fist. And you could even have different divisions if we're talking something like UFC, where they have different weight classes. You could have the Street Fighter division, the Tekken division, the Marvel vs. Capcom division, if you wanted to keep that going, and you should. Things like that. That, to me, is the future of competitive gaming, because fighting games, as I have said before, are the lowest barrier of entry for the casual viewer to understand everything that's going on. And if you want to highlight competitive gaming and get away from what it used to be, using a genre who's been there all along, just kind of waiting for its chance to hit the actual, full-on mainstream, is the way to do it. You do it at EVO. You partner with all the different tournaments around the world or around the country to get these things going, plus have your own events. You do EVO, you do Combo Breaker, you do Final Round if that ever comes back. You do stuff in the Northeast like NEC with Big E Gaming. Shout out to Big E Gaming. That's how competitive gaming, for me, hits the stratosphere and becomes humongous. And then the other competitive gaming leagues can build off of that. But until that happens, if that ever happens, which it sounds like if it's ever going to happen, I have to come up with a bunch of money to make it happen. I just don't see, and unfortunately, I don't see competitive gaming ever getting back to where it was, which may put a limited time frame on Esports Illustrated. Again, I should be over the moon that Esports Illustrated even exists, but I'm not. And that, to me, is the most telling thing of all. And again, it's not the fault of the staff and the outlet itself. They're just trying to break in. Sports Illustrated finally saw the light. It's a good idea. Maybe a couple years too late, but it is a good idea. It's just that the entirety of competitive gaming right now is on a downturn, and how long that downturn lasts remains to be seen. Help us, fighting games. You're our only hope. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to talk about 10 fantastic examples of when Disney makes video games. These are 10 games that of Disney properties or from Disney history that really are better than any licensed game has any right to be, and we'll go down that list in the next segment. Stick around. All right, welcome back to Cheese Sticks and Controllers, episode number 127. Getting at you here with the next segment of the show. As I mentioned at the top, I just got done a Disney World vacation with my family. Went down to Florida last Thursday until this past Wednesday. Had a blast. Me and the wife and the kids went to all the parks, did as many rides as we could, saw shows, fireworks, the whole nine. Had the whole Disney experience and had a blast doing it. And it got me thinking, what have been some of the best Disney video game experiences in all of history? Now, this is a long list to go through. Over 600 per Wikipedia when I looked, based on the A to Z video games based on Disney properties or including Disney properties. So I had to whittle that list down to 10. I then also took games that I have a lot of fond memories playing, so there will be some omissions, some of them obvious, some of them not so obvious. Like Darkwing Duck on NES, love that game, it's not here. Goof Troop on Super Nintendo, love that game, it's not here. Beauty and the Beast, Roar of the Beast by Sunsoft for the Sega Genesis, loved that game, probably the only one, so it's not here. But we'll go through the games that I think are most deserving of the list. Starting with the first ever Disney video game I remember playing, and as soon as I play this music, if my mother's listening, she's going to have a lot of fun with it. It's Mickey Mousecapades. I loved this game as a kid. It's very simple, kind of difficult. One of the levels is just you going in circles until you figure out the right way you're supposed to go. But the music is wonderful. The game is a lot of fun. And I just have a lot of fond memories sitting in my house as a kid with my NES, playing Mickey Mousecapades, shooting the stars, jumping over the enemies, hearing the crazy boss music, which you're not hearing right now. And just loving this game to death. Now, again, like I said, it is difficult, probably overly difficult, a little too hard for kids as it's targeted towards children, but still a very, very, very fun game by Hudson. Came out in 88, so I didn't play it until I was about 2 or 3 years old, but had a lot of fun with it. Not the best NES game, best NES Disney game, excuse me, on the, not the best NES Disney game, sorry, my mind is scattered. That would be from Capcom a couple of years later, and I'm sure for many of you, when I said I was going to do this at the beginning of the show, it was probably the first game you thought of, and that's DuckTales. It is hard to deny how good DuckTales on NES is. The fact that this licensed game got a full-on remaster in 2013 for all of the current consoles at the time should tell you everything you need to know. And that remaster was excellent. Just made this game even better. The platforming is tight. The pogo mechanic is really cool. The branching, different ways you could go through each level is a lot of fun. The soundtrack, obviously amazing. One of the biggest pops from a television show in my life. Pop meaning like cheer from me. it's a professional wrestling term, is when the DuckTales reboot that started in 2017 on the Disney Channel, Disney Now, whatever that channel is. They used one of the characters sang a lullaby to her kids, and it was the theme from The Moon that you just heard. That got me so excited. And the fact that game's legacy carried on, 30 years almost after it had come out, super, super good. It just speaks to how good that song and that soundtrack and that game really is. Not sure the best way to play DuckTales Remastered now. I don't know how readily available it is. If you can get your hands on it, I highly suggest that you do. PS3, Wii U, Xbox 360 era. In fact, Xbox 360 might be your best bet if it's on there. But yeah, definitely check that out. Or go play the original NES game. That's very, very good too. But both of them, solid options, and definitely one of my favorite Disney video games of all time. Now, this next one, I didn't play for very long. It was one that I played maybe once or twice, but it left such a mark on me. I'll never forget it, and that's Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. One of the coolest games you'll ever play on the original Nintendo, featuring Chip and Dale running around. Again, another Disney platformer. They were huge on platformers at the time, especially in the NES era, with DuckTales and now Chip and Dale, Darkwing Duck that I mentioned. Little Mermaid was another really good one as well. But this one, just the design of the levels and the way that you approached enemies, I really, really like this game. You could choose between Chip or Dale. Each one had a different sort of ability to them that made them a little bit better for specific levels. It was just really cool. I love the creativity of that game back then. As a kid, came out in 91, 92, really showed me what platformers could be outside of Mario or the classic Nintendo platformers. Another Capcom game. Followed up DuckTales and DuckTales 2 with Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Rescue Rangers 2 didn't play as much, but that has become one of the rarest NES cartridges out there. I know someone who has it, the lucky jerk. But definitely an awesome game if you're looking for a classic retro sort of Disney platformer from the era. If you're in a Disney mood, that would definitely be one that I would suggest. Now, we're going to move ahead a little bit in the timeline to the Super Nintendo and Genesis era. And we're going to talk about a game that is divisive, because it comes from an era where the name of the game would have come out for Super Nintendo and Genesis, but those consoles were so different that the games would be completely different. And it sparks a healthy debate sometimes as to whether one version is better or the other. I have an opinion in this particular one, but I'm curious how that will be well received. So the game is Disney's Aladdin, based on the movie, obviously. The Super Nintendo version was made by Capcom. The Genesis version, I believe, was made by Sega themselves. And it's always created this which one's better in the eyes of people who played them. Both of them are good. I enjoy both of them. But for me, the better one is Genesis. I much preferred... Virgin Games made the Genesis version. Sorry about that. I much preferred the more movie... what's the word I'm looking for? It looked more like the movie than the Super Nintendo version did, and that got me in immediately. But then the levels were fun. The variety of the levels were fun. Like this music you're listening to right now is the Rug Ride, where you just speed through the Cave of Wonders, trying to avoid the lava wave and the different obstacles that are coming your way. It felt like I was playing the movie at the time, which was hard to do back then when you had 16-bit consoles like the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. It really did feel like I was controlling the movie itself, and it was adding little sections to the movie by playing the game. Loved every second of it, and I wish more licensed games took notes from that. If you don't know, if you're not aware, licensed games have a reputation. They did have a reputation of being bunk, just awful, awful things. And a lot of them buck that trend, but they're becoming there was a time where they were very few and far between. Disney always seemed to knock them out of the park, but other ones definitely had some trouble making their games good. And I could go on and on about terrible licensed games. That's not what I'm focused on here. But Aladdin on both systems was great. But I just prefer the Genesis version, one of the best licensed games I've ever played, let alone Disney. Now, moving on to another Disney license, let's talk about The Lion King. This is another one where the Super Nintendo versus Genesis debate rages. I think this one's more clear-cut, and the Super Nintendo version is far superior, but that's just me. I played this game so much as a kid. Had it for Super Nintendo. My parents bought it for me for Super Nintendo right when the movie came out. I played this game almost every day, and I remember there was 10 levels in the game, and there was one that really gave me a lot of trouble. It was the first adult level as Simba. I want to say 6 or 7. I just could not get through it. And then one day, there was like my first epiphany moment that I can remember vividly, where I finally got through the obstacle I was trying to get through. I finally figured out the way to jump over through the bushes, through the thorns to get to the next area. And I remember being so excited that I immediately died and had to do it again. But this game is another foundational game in my video gaming experience. Without this one showing me how games can improve already existing properties like movies or stuff like that, I don't know that I would be a gamer now. So I owe Lion King a lot in that regard. Love that game to bits. May even play it today now that I'm talking about it. I have the itch. I'm jonesing. I may play the Lion King on Super Nintendo today at some point, just to get it out of my system. Now, going from there, we're going to leave the Super Nintendo era behind. We're going to jump a couple years, and by a couple I mean like almost a decade, ahead in the timeline. And if you thought that DuckTales was a sure bet for this list when I mentioned it, then it should be no surprise that we are now moving on to Kingdom Hearts. So, I don't know if I've told this story on this podcast before. Kingdom Hearts is the catalyst for one of the most foundational and wonderful memories of my life. So this game came out in 2002, right? And PlayStation 2 was about a year old when it came out, if I remember correctly. I did not own a PlayStation 2 at launch. I was just about a teenager back then. I couldn't go spend my own money on consoles like I can now. I was dependent on my parents, and they couldn't afford it, whatever. I told them about this game in September, October. I said, hey, look, they're making a game that is mixing the Final Fantasy that I've been playing on PlayStation with Disney. And you go to the different Disney worlds, and you fight monsters in the Disney worlds with the Disney characters. It has Alice in Wonderland and Tarzan and Hercules and all this. Showed them in a magazine. They said it was cool. Didn't think anything else of it. And then that year, the GameCube had come out as well. And that was where my focus was when I was making my Christmas list. Wanted GameCube, was a huge Super Smash Bros. Fan, wanted Smash Brothers Melee for Christmas. So GameCube, Melee, that's what I wanted. That's what I harped on. Didn't ask for anything else. Didn't want anything else. GameCube, Melee, that was it. Come to Christmas, and there's the GameCube as I asked for. Merry Christmas to me. Cool. And then I noticed right behind it, like hidden under the tree, out of view, a blue box. And I looked behind it, and there, sitting behind the GameCube, was a PlayStation 2 and Kingdom Hearts. Turns out that earlier that fall, just before the holidays, my grandfather, who is no longer with us, I live in his house now, had seen a lottery windfall, a decent lottery windfall. He had hit for a decent amount of money, and he spread the wealth. I remember that, too. I remember when he did it. He gave some to all three of his kids. He gave some to his grandkids. He slipped a 20 to my then girlfriend just because she came to the dinner where he was handing the money out. That's just the guy that he was. But my parents used that windfall to double up on both mine and my sister's Christmases that year, which meant that I had not only gotten the GameCube I asked for, but I had also gotten the Kingdom Hearts and PlayStation 2 that I had mentioned in passing. And I'll never forget that. I was like, 15, 14, I think. This is very much a first world story. I get it, but it was such a cool moment. And admittedly, I ended up playing the PS2 more than the GameCube when everything shook out. I spent a lot more time on PlayStation than I did on GameCube, but without Kingdom Hearts, I would have never owned it. So don't even have to talk about how cool Kingdom Hearts was. That story alone is why it's so special to me and continues to be special now. Very excited for Kingdom Hearts 4. Moving further ahead into the timeline, let's talk about Epic Mickey. Now, this one I just loved because it took Mickey Mouse and turned him on his head. Warren Spector and his team delivered a whole new way to experience Disney in general. And I really, really loved it. I loved the whole concept. I loved playing it. I hated the camera. The camera in this game was absolute poopy pants, and if they ever remaster it, it needs to be the first thing that's fixed. But otherwise, incredible. Also holds a special place in my heart because it's one of the booths I remember the most from my first ever E3 in 2010. So another Disney game etching itself into my memories forever, my core memories, as it were. Makes a lot of sense, but a very, very cool game there. Moving ahead a little further in the timeline, and I'm kind of rushing these last ones because I went over on the Kingdom Hearts part. I sometimes forget that there was a rhythm-based game for Kinect centered around Fantasia, but Fantasia Music Evolved does exist, and it's a lot of fun. And Harmonix made it, so you know that it was good musical fun, same people that made Rock Band. But using your hands to basically conduct the songs from Fantasia that were remastered for this game, plus some other pop songs, just to give it some more mainstream appeal. Super cool idea. I wish it was expanded on, honestly. I wish it was still around in some regard so we could keep playing it. It would be perfect on the Switch. Perfect on the Switch with the Joy-Cons. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but it is tailor-made for the Switch. Super, super, super cool game. If you've never played it before, check out some videos of it. You're basically just, like I said, conducting the world through the music that's playing through the speakers, and it's very, very cool. My last two on this list are grander experiences, like bigger open world sort of things. One of them on a small scale, one of them on a large scale and growing. Also happens to be the most recent Disney game I can think of. First is Disneyland Adventures. Came out for the Kinect first and then just became like a normal Xbox One game. You're just you're a kid walking through Disneyland, helping out Disney characters with missions. Simple, easy to play, easy to approach, perfect for children, one of their first ever games. In fact, it may have been one of Olivia's, my daughter's first ever games. Just a ton of fun going through. The mini games are based on the rides, so you have It's a Small World and Space Mountain and stuff like that. Just a cool game. This is this It's a Small World music from the game playing in the background now. Just a lot of fun and a nice casual sit down, play some games with your kids sort of experience. And based around Disney, so there's an easy entry point. They see Mickey, they like Mickey, they want to hang out with Mickey. It makes sense. And then finally, another one that's obvious just based on it being so recent, that's Disney Dreamlight Valley. Can't really say enough about this game. Kids are still asking to play it. Nearly 6-7 months after it first emerged back in September. The updates have been good with Scar and most recently Olaf and Mirabelle. More updates coming. Simba's on his way. Stuff like that. They love hanging out with Elsa. They love talking to Moana, seeing all the different worlds and all the different buildings, going into the castle and checking the realms out. Just a lot of fun. Animal Crossing with Disney. Who knew? Seems obvious when you say it out loud like that, but before it came out, before Gameloft actually gave it to us, nobody put the two together. Whoever had the idea over there at Gameloft, you're a smart cookie, because it is a lot of fun, and my family and I are very much enjoying it regularly. So those are 10 examples of great Disney games that have come out throughout the years. There are more. I mentioned them in the beginning, and there are still more that I'm forgetting. So if you have any that I forgot and you're listening to this, hit me up on Twitter at BigManFinelli. Would love to hear the games that either I missed or forgot. From the annals of Disney video games. Yes, Marvel counts now, so I technically Marvel vs. Capcom should be on this list, but I wanted to, distance from fighting games just for this one list. But trust me, I definitely considered it. Don't think I forgot. Coming up after the break, we're going to do something a little bit differently and review some product for podcasting, not just, review product for the podcast. Now this is actual stuff that I'm using for podcasting, and we'll talk about that on the other side. Stick around. All right, welcome back to Cheese Sticks and Controllers, episode number 127. Talked about Esports Illustrated, talked about Disney games, and now we're going to move into something a little bit different. So for the last segment here, I'm going to review a product. Not the first time I've done that. Probably won't be the last time I do that. But I am reviewing not a game, not a, something about a game, soundtrack, novel, whatever, not cards. I know we've been talking about Pokemon trading cards and Magic trading cards for a while. We'll get back into that. Instead, I'm going to be talking about podcasting equipment. I recently was able to test out the microphone and soundboard from a company called BEACN. And we're going to talk about the BEACN mic and the BEACN Mix Create right now. So, first and foremost, the BEACN website, BEACN.com. You can check this stuff out. And the BEACN mic is the one you see right there. It's cylindrical. Sorry, the music got me a little music fried my brain for a second there when he started singing. I knew it was coming, and it still just absolutely fried my mind. But so the BEACN mic, small, easy to connect to any existing arm that I have. That I appreciate. I have it actually onto the same arm I was using for my blue microphone, and it just snapped right on, no questions asked, easy peasy. I think that there is a definitive difference in my quality of voice from the podcasts where I've used it to the podcasts where I was using the blue. Granted, the blue was over a decade old. I got it in 2012. So it does make sense that a newer microphone would have newer technology in it to sound better. But even then, I feel like this is doing a great job of making my voice clear and consistent and easy to understand throughout every one of the episodes where I've been using it. I've had it for about, I want to say 6 weeks now, right after the 2023 began. The calendar changed to the new year. I've been using this mic, and I really do dig it. I dig it for podcasting. I dig it for interviews when I do interviews for articles and stuff like that. I dig it for any audio that I need, basically. I'm using this thing, and I really like it. And with that also comes a piece of software, the BEACN software that you install when you use the microphone for the first time. And while I really like this, I will admit that in the beginning I was hesitant, and the reason is not because of what the software can do. It gives you a ton of control over, the frequency and the gain and noise suppression and all that stuff. It's all here. People who are huge audiophiles will have a field day messing with all this stuff. I'm not quite there yet. I'm learning it still, but I do like all the options that it gives me and all the things I can play with. I appreciate all of that. Where my issue came in when I first installed it is that this program basically takes over the audio profile of your computer. And what I mean by that is, once you install this, all of the volume changing, all of the device changing that you'll be doing from here on out will be through the BEACN program. For some, that might be a little intrusive. For me, admittedly, in the beginning, I was hesitant. But now that I've learned the control panel, I've learned how to switch between different devices, I've set up a profile where instead of going into the volume setting on the bottom bar, right-clicking, and then picking the speakers I want to use between my TV speakers or the headphones I'm wearing right now, I set up a little profile on here. All I do is flip a switch and it's done. That I appreciate. I also appreciate that it shows me 4 different channels where I can adjust the volume specifically. It's basically how I'm using music natively in the background now instead of editing it in post, which I had done every episode before this. I love that. Editing these podcasts has become so much easier with this BEACN mic and something else that I'll talk about in a minute. I do appreciate that very, very much. So ultimately, the mic is wonderful. The program is great too. You just have to get over that hurdle of, oh, you're taking over my computer now. Hooray. But once you learn it, once you figure out your way around it and the mixer and all that stuff, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not terrible. It's not terribly intrusive as I thought it would be. And if anything, it makes controlling the volume and everything like that easier. Where this really comes into a full encapsulation of this going from cool to absolutely incredible is what's called the BEACN Mix Create. And that is another device that they sent me for testing. It is a 4-channel audio mixer that allows me to pipe in any audio I want at any moment I want. And I don't have to, like I said, I don't have to edit it in post. I don't have to do anything other than load up what I want. And then when I have it ready, just put the volume where I want it to be, push the button on either, like it works with my Elgato Stream Deck. So if I'm talking about something I don't like and I want to be like,
it stinks,
it plops that sound right in, no questions asked. If I want to play a song or something like that, or a cool sound effect, I can just go, and it's there, right into the Mix Create. If I want to go to YouTube and there's a song that I'm like, man, I really want to listen to this song today, let's find the Guile theme from Street Fighter, and we'll put that in here and see what that sounds like behind me. Just go to YouTube, find it, and there it is. It's playing behind me. No post-editing necessary. No hours upon hours putting little things together in Audacity like I was before. It's all done. It's all native in there. Huge. I cannot say enough about how much I love the Mix Create. This thing is a game changer when it comes to me and podcasting and recording and stuff like that. It is a time saver. It is a very convenient and easy to use method to mix between all these different sounds. There are some things I still haven't quite figured out yet. Like every time I turn my computer on for the first time, I press a button on the Stream Deck and it goes to one of the four profiles, one of the four channels. And then the Stream Deck stops working and just goes into like an infinite loading loop until I make an adjustment in the program. And then the next time I press a button on the Stream Deck, it goes back to the channel where it should be and works perfectly. Just a weird workaround I have to do every time I want to use it. I haven't figured out why that's happening, and it honestly isn't intrusive enough for the score to go down. It's just a weird little quirk that I thought I would mention that I have to deal with. But ultimately, the total package of the microphone, the program, and the Mix Create, or I should say, I guess the microphone, the Mix Create, and the program that puts it all together has significantly enhanced my podcasting ability and changed it for the better. And I cannot say enough about how impressed I am with all of this. I get offered free samples of stuff a lot. Being a journalist for, or being in media for 15 years, I get offered review copies and samples a lot. Most of the time it's games where I play a game and I review it and I move on. Sometimes it's devices where I check them out and, give a score, whatever. I was doing a lot of product stuff over at MMORPG, if you've read my work for a while. But I can't say that, while I've given stuff good scores, the things that I'm reviewing are like a fundamental improvement to my life. And I know that that's pretty extreme to say, but when it comes to this podcast, my ability to make it the way I want to make it was significantly enhanced when I received these products for review. So for me, I have to give the mic, the mixer, and the program a 10 out of 10. I have to, because the fundamental changes it has made to my ability to make this show cannot be understated. It's a vast improvement, 1,000% better, and I don't even remember when I did it without it. That's how good this thing is. So if you are in the market for podcasting equipment, I cannot endorse enough going to BEACN.com, BEACN.com. I'm not going to say that they're 100% affordable. They're not. The mic is currently at $279 and the BEACN Mix Create is at $200. So that's a significant investment for this equipment. If you're just starting out or you can't afford that yet, I completely understand. But is it something to maybe aspire to? Like you start now, you build an audience, and then you upgrade with this later on? Yes. If you can afford it out of the gate, do it. It is perfect especially for people who aren't familiar with the specific nuances of audio. It'll teach you that in the program. It lays it out in ways that are idiot-proof, and that's coming from an idiot. It's awesome. And I cannot recommend it enough. And I am thankful that they sent me this product for review. And I am now looking forward to whatever's next in their portfolio, because this stuff is awesome. And it will allow me to continue this podcast in ways that I couldn't before. And if you want to hear just how good it is at picking stuff up, that sound you just heard was a dish going into the sink upstairs. It sounded like I was right next to it, but it wasn't. It was a floor above me, and you heard it probably crystal clear. That's how good this mic is. It also means that I need a better shield around it, but that's on me. That's not on the mic. But ultimately, BEACN, the mic, the Mix Create, excellent, excellent stuff. And if you're in the market for new equipment, I cannot recommend it enough. So thank you to BEACN for sending this product. I do need to put that out there. I was sent the microphone and the Mix Create, but now having tried it for the better part of a month, at least 4 or 5 episodes, I've been using this stuff. I mentioned it before that I was it was the first episode with the new equipment. I don't remember exactly what episode it was, but since then I've been using it, and it has been nothing but awesome. So, BEACN.com, BEACN. It's basically the word beacon, but missing the O. .com. Check out the stuff, and if you're looking to upgrade or looking to get started and you have the ability to invest in this, I 100% think you should. And with that, we are at the end of episode number 127 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented as always by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts, you can hear this show. Be back next week with more from the latest and greatest in video games, be it competitive gaming, regular gaming, ton of stuff coming up. PAX East is coming up soon. Probably have a preview show with someone special, if that person's listening, in 2 weeks' time. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope you have an even better, fantastic weekend, an even better week right behind it, and I will be back next week with more gaming news here on Cheesesteaks and Controllers. See ya!